On an ordinary September night, in a city full of bright lights and busy streets, an 18-year-old student vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of haunting questions, eerie surveillance footage, and a mystery that would expose dark truths hiding in plain sight. This is the story that shook an entire community, connected two chilling cases, and revealed how one predator slipped through the cracks for years.
The night of September 12, 2014, began like countless others in the college town of Charlottesville, Virginia. Students filled the streets, restaurants buzzed with chatter, and the sidewalks glowed under yellow streetlights as young people drifted between gatherings, bars, and dorms. Among them was 18-year-old Hannah Graham, a first-year student at the University of Virginia, known for her intelligence, gentle humor, athletic talent, and strong academic drive. Earlier that evening, Hannah had dinner with her friends, laughed with them, and moved with the normal rhythm of a young woman settling into her new life away from home. But as the night wore on, something changed. She began feeling unwell, texting her friends that she wasn't feeling right, and eventually separated from the people she had been with. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Students often moved around independently, especially in well-lit, busy areas. But for Hannah, this would be the last time her friends saw her alive. Surveillance footage from multiple cameras captured Hannah wandering alone shortly after midnight. She appeared disoriented, unsure of where she was going, and her messages reflected confusion. Despite being surrounded by crowds, she never clearly asked anyone for help. Instead, she drifted through the lively downtown corridors, passing strangers, walking unsteadily, and texting rapidly as she tried to figure out her way back home. This footage would later become crucial in reconstructing the final steps of her night. Hannah's background made her disappearance even more heartbreaking. Born in Reading, England on February 25, 1996, she had moved to Charlottesville with her family at a young age. She grew up with a mix of British roots and American culture, excelling in school, music, and athletics. Her professors and classmates described her as bright, curious, and compassionate, someone with big plans and a genuine heart. On campus, she was known for her warmth and friendliness, a girl who worked hard, laughed easily, and seemed to approach life with both ambition and kindness. Around 12:45 a.m., Hannah was recorded near the downtown mall, an area known for late-night foot traffic. She looked vulnerable, but still moving with purpose. The footage showed her brushing past groups of people, yet never stopping long enough to express distress. Minutes later, a man appeared in the frame, tall, broad-shouldered, with a calm, confident presence. His name was Jesse Leroy Matthew, Jr., a 32-year-old hospital orderly and former youth sports coach whose outward personality seemed friendly, but whose past held disturbing allegations that had never led to convictions. Each time he had withdrawn from school or quietly left a job, leaving a troubling pattern without legal consequences. When police attempted to bring Matthew in for questioning on September 19th, he instead drove away, disappearing from Charlottesville and igniting a nationwide manhunt. His sudden flight turned him from a person of interest into a prime suspect. For investigators, the situation became far more urgent than a missing person inquiry. They feared they were not searching for a girl who was lost, but for a predator who might strike again. As the search expanded, the media began to connect Hannah's case to another unsolved disappearance from 5 years earlier, that of Morgan Harrington, a 20-year-old student who vanished after a Metallica concert in Charlottesville in 2009. Morgan's remains had been found months later, but her killer had never been identified. Now, with Hannah missing and Matthew on the run, old fears returned to the surface. The community grew increasingly anxious, hoping for Hannah's safe return while bracing for the possibility of a darker truth. Part 1 ends here. setting the stage for the investigation that would uncover long-hidden connections, reveal the failures that allowed Matthew to avoid accountability, and bring two tragic cases together in one chilling discovery. Please subscribe to the channel to support safe, responsible, and respectful true crime storytelling under YouTube's latest content guidelines.
As the search for Hannah Graham intensified, investigators continued to build their timeline, relying heavily on digital data, eyewitness accounts, and surveillance footage collected from businesses and street cameras. Every hour brought new urgency. Volunteers searched wooded areas, neighborhoods, and rural roads, hoping to find any sign of the missing student. The Charlottesville community, deeply shaken, came together with determination, but fear quietly spread as Jesse Matthew remained missing. Law enforcement agencies across multiple states were alerted, and the FBI joined the hunt. Meanwhile, forensic teams continued analyzing evidence from Hannah's last known movements. Her phone data offered limited clues because it had died shortly after midnight, but surveillance footage provided a clear trajectory of where she traveled and who she was with. The more police studied the recordings, the clearer it became that Hannah was not simply lost. She was accompanied by a man with a troubling history. As Matthew evaded authorities, investigators dug deeper into his background, uncovering a pattern of behavior that raised concerns. During his time at Liberty University, he had been accused of sexual misconduct by a fellow student. The allegations, while serious, did not lead to charges. Instead, Matthew withdrew from school. Later, at Christopher Newport University, a similar incident occurred. Once again, there was no conviction, and Matthew quietly moved on. These unresolved accusations, combined with his sudden flight in 2014, painted a picture of someone who had repeatedly avoided consequences despite multiple warning signs. The turning point in the investigation came when forensic experts connected Matthew's DNA to another high-profile disappearance in Charlottesville, the case of Morgan Harrington, who vanished 5 years earlier after leaving a Metallica concert. Morgan's remains had been found months later on a remote farm, but her killer had never been identified. With the DNA match, investigators realized they were looking at a predator who had operated undetected for years. This connection transformed Hannah's case into something far larger and more disturbing. The public now understood that the disappearance was not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern involving violent crimes against young women. The revelation of the DNA match brought immense pressure to locate Matthew quickly, and it heightened the emotional weight on both families and the community. As the manhunt intensified, Matthew moved across several states, leaving a trail of sightings and near encounters. Finally, on September 24, 2014, officials located him at a small campsite in Galveston, Texas. He was arrested without incident. His capture brought a mixture of relief and dread. On one hand, the primary suspect in Hannah's disappearance was finally in custody. On the other, his arrest raised the grim possibility that Hannah might never be found alive. After Matthew's arrest, investigators focused on extracting every possible lead that could guide them to Hannah's location. Forensic teams revisited mapped areas, conducted aerial scans, and examined rural properties. Weeks passed, and hope grew increasingly fragile. On October 18, 2014, a search team working in Albemarle County discovered human remains in a heavily wooded area approximately 10 miles from Hannah's last known location. The site was secluded, quiet, and difficult to access, an area that would have been nearly impossible to find without coordinated, persistent searching. Forensic examination confirmed that the remains belonged to Hannah Graham. Evidence recovered at the site, including clothing and DNA, provided crucial details about her death, but the focus remained on ensuring the investigation stayed respectful and factual under the public eye. News of the discovery sent shockwaves through Charlottesville. For over a month, the community had held on to the hope that Hannah might be alive somewhere, waiting to be found. Now, that hope was replaced by profound grief. Memorials and vigils were held on the UVA campus, where classmates, professors, and local residents joined Hannah's family to honor her life and mourn her loss. As the legal process moved forward, prosecutors built a strong case against Jesse Matthew. They relied on surveillance footage, witness testimony, DNA evidence, and detailed investigative work connecting him not only to Hannah Graham, but also to Morgan Harrington.
The narrative that emerged revealed years of escalating behavior and institutional failures that had allowed Matthew to avoid scrutiny. For many, the most painful realization was that earlier intervention might have prevented both tragedies. Before Matthew's trial could begin, he chose to plead guilty to the abduction and murder of both Hannah and Morgan. In February 2016, he accepted responsibility in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. The plea spared both families from the emotional strain of a lengthy and public trial. He received 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would spend the remainder of his life in prison. The sentencing provided a sense of justice, but it could not erase the pain experienced by the families or the broader community. Hannah's parents, who had endured unimaginable loss, turned their grief into advocacy. They became vocal supporters of improving campus safety protocols, strengthening reporting systems for misconduct, and ensuring that institutions could not ignore or conceal accusations that might indicate dangerous behavior. Their activism contributed to national conversations about student safety, accountability, and the need for transparent policies across universities. The case of Hannah Graham became a symbol of both tragedy and transformation. It exposed gaps in institutional responses, highlighted the dangers of overlooking patterns of misconduct, and demonstrated the importance of thorough investigative procedures. For law enforcement, it reinforced the value of surveillance technology, digital forensics, and early coordination across jurisdictions. For students and families, it served as a reminder of the importance of awareness, community support, and advocating for safer environments. Today, the legacy of Hannah Graham lives on through the reforms inspired by her story and the ongoing efforts of her family and community to protect others from similar harm. Her memory represents resilience, compassion, and the hope for a world where young people can pursue their dreams without fear. Though her life was tragically cut short, the impact of her story continues to shape conversations about safety, accountability, and justice. Her case stands as a powerful lesson on the importance of taking early warning seriously and ensuring that systems are put in place to prevent predators from slipping through unnoticed. The tragedy of Hannah Graham and its connection to the earlier disappearance of Morgan Harrington remain deeply etched into the collective memory of Charlottesville and beyond, reminding society that change often emerges from heartbreak but carries the potential to protect future generations.
If you're still here watching, thank you. Before you go, please subscribe to our channel, Dark Frame Stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another real-life mystery like this.